Hi esteemed logicians. Welcome to the Logical Christ channel. The Logical Christ will logically react on Muhammad Hijab's assertions and claims in light of logic, in this video series number 3. Sit back and relax, we will be back after this short intro.
Islam is the only ancient religion that I know of which clearly outlaws racism. There's not one verse in the Old Testament or in the Talmud or anything like that which outlaws racism. In fact, to the contrary, there is, this preferential treatment that we're getting from the tribe of Israel, who God had to repent to and lost to a wrestling match to one of the protagonists of, and so on. No, Islam, as the Prophet told us, there is no superiority over a black man over a white man, or a white man over a black man, or an Arab over a non-Arab, or a non-Arab over an Arab.
Hijab claims Islam is the only ancient religion that outlaws racism, asserting that the Old Testament lacks any such prohibition. This is an ignorant reading of the Bible's ethical framework. The entire Abrahamic covenant is predicated on the idea that all nations and peoples find blessing through Abraham's seed, which is Christ, Galatians 3 verse 8. The Old Testament commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself, Leviticus 19 verse 18, a standard that inherently rejects hatred based on race or tribe. The Quran's alleged rejection of racism is severely undercut by its own tribalistic and discriminatory laws, particularly concerning the treatment of non-Muslims. The Quran mandates that Muslims take no one as friends except their own, Quran 3:28. This command for religious exclusivity creates a theological barrier that is, in practice, a form of spiritual segregation, which is worse than racial prejudice. Christians believe that God created all humanity from a single soul, without distinction, and that in Christ, there is neither Greek nor Jew, Galatians 3 verse 28. This theological unity is absolute. The Islamic focus on the Ummah, or Muslim community, excludes outsiders by divine mandate, compromising its claim to true anti-racism.
What do you find repugnant about Islam that you feel like you need to
Let's start with the
activist?
anti-Semitism.
The Quran says that there are those of the Jews and the Christians that you can trust them, and there are those who you can't trust them. In another verse in the same surah, it says, "Laysu sawa'a," they're not all the same. So in other words, the Quran's attitude towards Jews and Christians seems to be in line with its attitude towards Muslims, because in the Quran, chapter 35 of the Quran, it says that there are some Muslims who are oppressive to themselves, and some of them which are on the middle path, and those who excel. Likewise, the Quran says about the Jews and Christians, they're not all the same. There are some good of them and there are some bad of them. Likewise, the Quran has that sentiment to all of humankind, that humankind, you find good people, and you find trustworthy, and you find untrustworthy.
Hijab asserts that Islam is not anti-Semitic and that the Quran treats Jews and Christians the same as Muslims. This is completely false. The Quran contains numerous verses that demonize the Jewish people and set them apart as enemies of the Muslim community, leading to centuries of institutionalized anti-Semitism. The Quran curses the Jews for their disobedience, stating, "Allah has cursed them for their disbelief, so little is it that they believe," Quran 2:88. Furthermore, it alleges that they distort the scriptures and are enemies of the believers, saying, "You will surely find the most intense of people in animosity toward the believers to be the Jews," Quran 5:82. This is not equal treatment. Jews and Christians are legally relegated to a second-class status as dhimmi under Islamic law, required to pay the jizya tax, Quran 9:29, and subject to harsh penalties not applied to Muslims. This unequal treatment proves Islam is inherently discriminatory toward non-Muslims, making Hijab's claim utterly dishonest.
Can I come with you to Mecca?
Yes, you can actually, on one condition.
I've got to pay this.
Yeah. Now,
I'll do the shahada.
No, let me tell you something. I'll give you a verse in the Quran that gives you a reason. It says that certainly the polytheists are impure, so they should not be allowed in the sanctuary after this year. What does it mean to be impure as a polytheist? In the sense that they are not Muslims, they are not monotheists, and this is the strongest opinion. So someone who does not have monotheism should not come into the sanctuary where there is monotheism.
Hijab suggests that Jews can come to Mecca because they are monotheistic, but polytheists cannot. This is a half-truth that hides the ultimate Islamic goal of religious cleansing. The Quran is clear that polytheists, or idolaters, are absolutely forbidden from the Holy Mosque, stating, "Indeed, the polytheists are unclean, so let them not approach Al-Masjid al-Haram after this current year," Quran 9:28. However, the exclusion is not merely based on theology, it is based on the finality of Muhammad's religion. The long-term goal for Jews and Christians, though tolerated for a time, is subjugation. The Prophet Muhammad's final instruction was to expel the Jews and Christians from the Arabian Peninsula, proving that the Quran's initial tolerance was merely a temporary political measure, not a sign of acceptance. The Quran divides humanity into believers and unbelievers, with only one group granted full rights. The exclusion of polytheists and the ultimate subjugation of monotheists prove that Islam's paradigm is one of religious dominance, not pluralistic coexistence or universal hospitality.
Many people have said to me, why don't you go ahead and challenge this Quran banner for a debate? I think this is an insult to me. This is an insult to me because the kind of thing I'd be challenging him to is the following. I'd be saying, let's go ahead and go to a public area. Why? Why are you going to go to a public area? I'll tell you why. I will hand him a cloth. I'm going to be wearing black shoes, shiny, and then I'm going to close my eyes. And this Rasmussen is going to shine my shoes until they become sparkling, so that when I open my eyes again and I look down at the shoe, I see the reflection of the champ staring back at me. And Rasmussen is looking down at the shoe at the same time, seeing his ineptitude and ineffectuality and impotence being my servant.
Hijab claims that it is an insult for Muslims if someone burns the Quran. Yet, Christians would argue that Muslims should first be insulted by the actions of their own caliph. Caliph Uthman ibn Affan, the third successor to Muhammad, ordered the burning and destruction of all variant copies of the Quran to enforce a single, standardized text. If burning the Quran is an unforgivable insult today, then how do Muslims justify Uthman's action of systematically destroying every original copy that conflicted with his official compilation? This act of the early Islamic State proves that the integrity of the revealed text was not perfectly preserved, and human intervention was required to standardize it. The very need to destroy variant manuscripts, often called the mushafs, shows that the Quran was not a perfectly united, singular revelation preserved from the start. Uthman's burning proves that the Quran's physical form is the result of fallible political and human editing, undermining its claim to unblemished divine protection.
And they talk about human rights as if it's some kind of a universal concept. One has to really remember that it's not really a universal concept. Their understanding of human rights has a beginning. Their 30 articles in the United Nations Charter of Human Rights was not designed by a conglomerate of individuals from all parts of the world who all agreed with different ideological standpoints that these are universal human rights. Some things have been omitted, some things have been added, which the rest of the world simply doesn't agree with. And I think more of us need to be clever enough in being able to unpack these kinds of assumptions, especially when people from, let's say, a liberal standpoint with a small L come to us with these kinds of questions. Why is it that your religion, why is it that your people, why is it that your country doesn't uphold a vision of human rights commensurate with the Western worldview? The reason is because we simply have a different paradigm. Now the fight is, or the intellectual debate should be, which one is right.
Hijab asserts that human rights are not a truly universal concept. This statement implicitly defends the non-universal nature of Islamic rights. The Quran teaches that ultimate rights are bestowed by Allah and are conditional on one's religious adherence, which is the antithesis of universality. The Christian concept of human rights is rooted in the creation account, where all humans are made in God's image, Genesis 1 verse 27. This image confers inherent, inalienable dignity on every person, regardless of their faith, tribe, or gender. This Christian doctrine provides a true foundation for universal rights. The Islamic system, however, mandates unequal rights, thus a woman's testimony is worth half a man's, Quran 2:282, and non-Muslims lack equal legal standing. By denying the universality of human dignity, Islam enshrines discrimination as a divine legal mandate, failing the standard of true justice.
And if you really have a motivation to stop being addicted to pornography, then you have to put an action plan for yourself, which includes but is not limited to the fact that you can't trust yourself alone in certain areas. Cut things from the root. If you know there are certain triggers that trigger you to the sexual experience, or certain psychological reasons why you are addicted to this thing. Maybe it's a form of escapism. You have to address those things, because when you relieve yourself and you get rid of this thing from your life, I genuinely believe that you will actually, ironically, in a sense, have more pleasure. And Islam is not against pleasure. In fact, there was 3 men that came to the Prophet. One of them says, I'll never have sex. I'll never get married and never, engage in this in my life. I get married, the Prophet said, and whoever goes against my way is not from me. Meaning, we're not, once again, encouraging a celibate lifestyle. We're encouraging a disciplined one.
Hijab claims Islam is not against pleasure but condemns pornography. This claim is undermined by the life of Muhammad, who showed a profound inclination towards sexual pleasures, which is often used to lure men to Islam through promises of paradise. The hadiths confirm Muhammad's immense focus on sexual satisfaction, even reporting his claims that he was covered by semen from his various wives. The pursuit of pleasure led him to acquire multiple wives, concubines, and even to receive a special divine exemption to marry his daughter-in-law, Quran 33:37. Furthermore, the Quran explicitly uses sexual pleasure as a primary incentive for conversion, promising male believers 72 her beautiful companions in paradise, Quran 55:72. A true, high religion should call believers to sanctity and spiritual reward, not to an eternal brothel as a reward for faith.
The way the Muslim community looks at women, it is very submissive. It is very, I get to do this and you can't. It is very, I can have multiple wives, you can't have multiple husbands.
It's not enough to preach to the choir that, okay, well, Islam allows a man to marry 4 and a woman can only marry 1, or that a woman has to be submissive in marriage. It's clear, I think, for any fair academic person, that there are differences in dominant Western ethics and Islamic discourses. But the question is, why would that make, for example, Islam false, wrong, unfair, unjust, or any of those things? Is there an argument that you're making here? Because I'm still waiting to hear the argument.
Hijab argues that the inequality of men and women in Islam does not make the religion false. Christians fundamentally disagree. A true, divine religion must promote absolute equality, as both men and women are equally created in God's image. The Islamic system, by divine decree, treats women as inferior. The Quran states that women are allowed to be struck by their husbands if they fear them being rebellious, Quran 4:34. This divine sanction of violence and the institutionalized superiority of men make Islam ethically unacceptable to Christians as a final revelation. In Islam, women are treated as sexual objects, necessary for men's satisfaction on earth and in paradise, where men are promised her. A true religion does not entertain such sexual immorality or male dominance, but elevates women to co-heirs with men in the grace of life, 1 Peter 3:7.
Most Muslims are not terrorists, but most terrorists are Muslims, right? So when you read that, like, wait a minute, you can't say that. Well, he's not wrong.
If what we're talking about is the targeting or the killing of non-combatants, and we look in the historical record for the last 2,000 years, I think it's almost impossible to make the case that the Islamic civilization, in whichever way you would like to define it, the forerunner in this. For example, in fact, there was an article that was written by Naveed Sheikh. He concluded that the Christian civilization was the most, in terms of civilian death, active in committing them, with 178 million people, he states, who have died in wars related to the Christian civilization.
Hijab asserts that most terrorists are not Muslims and that Christianity has historically seen more terrorism. This attempt to deflect responsibility ignores the theological root of Islamic violence. The concept of jihad, or struggle, is not merely defensive, it is commanded to expand the dominion of Islam. The Quran contains clear, perpetual mandates to fight non-Muslims, saying, and fight them until there is no more fitna and until worship is acknowledged to be for Allah, Quran 2:193. This verse provides a theological justification for offensive, aggressive warfare aimed at establishing Islamic global supremacy. While historical Christian violence is tragic and sinful, it contradicts Christ's command to love your enemies. Conversely, Islamic terrorism is often done in obedience to specific Quranic injunctions to kill and strike terror into the hearts of the unbelievers, Quran 8:12, making the comparison disingenuous.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm Angela.
No, I don't shake hands with women for religious reasons. Yeah, for religious reasons.
In that case, I don't think I can speak to you anymore.
Why? Is that what?
Because I think that's really offensive.
No,
That's okay, that's okay. That
No, no,
you have
but-
a belief set and I
but hold on. This is good. This is good. It shows you that they're incapable of having conversation with someone who doesn't believe in certain values. So they wouldn't be shaking hands with a tribal leader in Africa. They'd walk away from them. Because you're not allowed to shake hands with tribal leaders in Africa. If you had a Jew, you wouldn't shake hands with them because an Orthodox Jew. So in other words, if you don't believe in our liberal values the way we accept them and the way we shape them and the way then we're not going to have conversations with you. So that's intolerance. That's liberal intolerance. And I'm very happy it was on camera. Walk away. It's feministic intolerance.
Hijab maintains that it is religiously not good to shake hands with women, citing this as a matter of purity. But his reaction when a woman refused to talk to him because he offended her shows hypocrisy. Hijab lamented the rejection, but he should extend the same respect to the woman's feelings that he demands for his own ritual purity. The refusal to shake a woman's hand is offensive because it treats her as ritually unclean or a sexual temptation, denying her basic human dignity. This is a severe failure of courtesy and respect. Jesus Christ freely touched both women and the ritually unclean without being defiled. Mark 5 verses 25 to 34, teaching that love transcends ritual. Christians assert that true holiness is internal, not external, saying, "Nothing that goes into a person from outside can defile him." Mark 7 verse 15. By refusing to offer a basic gesture of respect, Islam places ritual purity above human dignity, which is a moral failure. I hope you learned from this video. Comment down below for your thoughts on this logical reaction on Muhammad Hijab's assertions and claims in light of logic, in this video series number 3. Until next time.
Thinking with Logical Christ.